Hi everyone, it's Lisa from My Dream in Soap. Welcome to my channel and thanks for dropping by. Now today's soap was a soap that I originally made for the Soap Challenge Club when we did a technique called slanted layers. And for the advanced category we had to produce a chevron design. Now of all the soaps I've ever made, I've got three that are my standout favourites, and they are my interpretation of The Scream by Edvard Munch, Gathering Pollen, and this one. Now I have made a video of my Scream soap. In fact, it was the very first soap making video that I uploaded to my YouTube channel. But the other two, I made those before I'd even started my YouTube channel. So I thought it would be nice to remake them, so I do have them on video, seeing as they're my favourites, and I thought you might like to see them too. Come on, let's go and make some soap. So the first job I'm going to do is make the embeds that I need for the animals. So first of all, I'm just using a standard extruder disc. This is just like something that, as you can see, extrudes a fairly straightish, well, mine's all screwed up and curly, line of soap dough, and I'm going to use that for the stripes for my tiger. And then I'll just trim them to the size I want for my mould and just carry on repeating this until I've got enough for all the tiger stripes that I need. So next I want to make some leopard spots. So what I've done is taken some sort of browny tan coloured soap dough and rolled it up into a tube, and then I've wrapped that with some black soap dough, a bit like a sausage roll, and that's going into my extruder. Now the disc I'm using is like the little sort of 3-petal blob. I have no clue what that's actually called, and that will extrude a nice little leopard spot for us with a tanny inside and a black outside. I did also extrude some more black stripes for the zebra, but just a slightly different shape to those of the tiger. And then I also extruded some sort of patch shapes for the giraffe, but for the life of me I can't find where that footage has gone. But you'll see the little extrusions that I've made as we put them into the soap. So let's move on to pouring that first layer now, and that's going to be our tiger. So I'm going to use some Clementine Pop from You Make It Up and just give it a little bit of a boost with some neon orange from Micah Mama. Now there is a horrible amount of maths going on with this technique, well, unless you're just going to guess how much you need for each layer. So I'm not going to go through all of that because that will bore at least 99% of you. But as you can see, each individual layer needs to be poured separately. And this that I've got on the screen is literally 1/2 of my soap. So I will repeat those 13 layers and do them twice. Now I will need to pour each animal 4 times. So what I'm going to do is the very first time I use the colour for that animal is I'm going to mix in the mica just into the oil for all 4 of the pours, and then I'm going to split that out and then mix it with the lye as I do each individual pour separately. And that way what I'm going to do is make sure I get a consistent colour all across the soap. Now the fragrance oil I'm using is Black Rose and Oud from NI Candles. Now I've chosen this fragrance because it does actually set up pretty quickly, so it'll be ideal for doing my layers. So I am going to have to move quite swiftly because I want these layers to pour when they're nice and fluid. So then I've just added my right amount of oils and lye for one single layer, and I'm going to bring that up to emulsion. And then because I'm putting embeds into each of these little pores, I'm going to split that layer into two. I'm just adding that fragrance oil to the first little bit I'm going to pour in because I want that to set nicely for me so I can put the embeds in without them falling all over the place. And then what I'll do is I'll then add some more fluid batter and just add the fragrance oil at the last moment to get a nice smooth layer on the top. And then I'm going to spin my mould over. Now hopefully you can see that, but I've got a centre divider going down because all I'm doing is building half the chevron first of all. So I'm literally just going to repeat that process, the batter in first for the embeds and then pour a fluid layer of batter over the top. Now once that layer's all set up, the next layer, the elephant, is just a straightforward grey pour. And then I'm just going to carry on with that process, building up all the different animals on that side of the mould. Now I'm actually just going to jump to the top of this half, just because when I was filming this it was getting really dark and it was much brighter when I did the second half of the soap. So let's just jump to the top and then we'll look at the other bits. So I let that sit and set up for, I guess, about 8 hours by the time I finished it and then went to bed and got up again. And then what I want to do is to remove this middle divider so I can pour the rest of the soap. And for me, I actually find that easier if I just take my mould apart. It is actually quite a tricky job because you've got to be really careful. That divider is stuck on fairly hard, but you really don't want to damage the soap that's underneath it. This mould, by the way, is my mould from Custom Craft Tools, and I'll leave a link to them in the description below. And once I've got the divider out, I'm going to rebuild the mould, but what I'm going to do is take another divider that's actually slightly shorter, it's from another mould, and put that inside this mould up against the wall of the mould. And the reason I need to do this is because the centre divider would have shifted the centre of the soap over a little bit. So to make sure we're nice and square, we haven't got a big half and a small half, I'm just going to put a divider back in to fill that extra gap. So let's just complete that second half of the soap, and I'm just going to do it fairly quickly and leave it to play with some music. And finally, we get to the top again with our last giraffe. And on the top, I'm just going to leave it very flat and plain because it's quite a geometric soap, so I don't want anything sort of disturbing that pattern on the top. And then once again, I'll leave that overnight and we'll unmould the next day. When you see it the next day, the ends will look a bit funny because I don't know if you can see it, but those little ends of the dividers are still in there. I just didn't worry about removing those. But that's fine, we'll just trim those end bits off like we normally do. So there we are the next day, and you can see those little ridges from the end dividers, and we'll trim those off later. And there we are, there's our jungle. Now I do remember when I very first made this soap that I thought to myself, oh goodness me, don't want to make that again. And I must admit, my opinion hasn't changed this time. It is quite a fag with those 26 layers and all of those embeds. But hey, it's one of my favourite soaps and I still love it, and I hope you do too. And then I'll just leave you with a final picture of the cleaned up soap. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, why not subscribe to my channel? Thanks for watching everyone. Happy soaping!